Good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Brad Gorman. I'm the General Manager of Produce at Coles, and I've had the absolute pleasure of serving in the fresh produce industry now for the best part of a decade. I'd like to reiterate John's words and congratulate Richard and his team on putting together what promises to be another wonderful conference. I'd also like to acknowledge Senator Fiona Nash, who will be joining us later today, and John Dollison, and I reiterate John's words in wishing John certainly a speedy recovery. And really I want to honour and thank everybody who represents and serves this wonderful industry. So the title of my talk today is about strategic investment in the fresh food sector. And frankly, humbly, I would suggest that it's the farmers themselves, those bold growers who put their own capital, their own endeavour on the line every day, who are much better placed to talk to you about strategic investment in fresh produce. I have the greatest respect for their efforts. I truly value what they do every day, and it's just one of the reasons I love this wonderful industry. Instead, I hope to briefly share with you a retailer's perspective and to give you some sense about how we're supporting investment in this sector, in the sense that maybe it informs the way that you can invest going forward. So firstly, I'd encourage you to invest with the end consumer in mind. And for our customers, that means focusing on quality. More than 80% of our consumers say that the quality of the fresh food in their supermarket determines where they shop, whether they turn left or right when they walk into a shopping centre or whether they walk down a high street. Fresh food also drives bigger shopping baskets, and for that reason it will continue to be important to Coles. So what are our customers actually saying? I'm not sure all that slide's up there, but so what are our customers actually saying? Well, the first thing that we're hearing from them right now is they want to know about provenance. They want to know where the food they eat comes from, how it's been grown, and how it got to market. For that reason, innovations and investment in product traceability, the reduction of pesticides and chemical usage will remain important factors. Convenience too is playing a greater role as time-poor customers are shopping in smaller baskets and more frequently, and looking for products that save them time in food production at home. So that in turn is encouraging suppliers to invest upstream in value-added production. That remains our fastest growing category. So it's those factors, as John mentioned, that have led Coles to change the way that we source product. 6 years ago, the vast majority of the product we bought was through intermediaries and market agents. And at best, we were transactional and short-term in our planning. Today, more than 90% of our purchases come from direct supply relationships through long-term and seasonal commitments. So that in turn has provided greater transparency and security for our growers and for our customers. And I think importantly, it helped improve returns to our growers by removing costs and intermediaries from the supply chain. And lastly, it allows us to know where our product comes from, how it gets to store, and to make sure it's getting there faster and fresher than ever. Okay. So as we've built those closer relationships with our growers, the other thing it allows us to do is to unlock, through shared investment and long-term commitments, opportunities to bridge supply gaps and build employment in rural communities to provide better quality and value for Australian consumers. A great example of this is our relationship with Anthony and Leanne Ewers and their family and their team at Berry Sweet in Western Australia. So 3 years ago, Anthony and our team identified that there was a significant market gap for the supply of strawberries into WA. Anthony found a parcel of land down in Pemberton in the south of WA, and together we've developed a 20-hectare production facility that's brought 60 new jobs to the region and most importantly provided Western Australian consumers with better quality and abundant strawberries through early autumn and into winter. At Coles, as John mentioned, we also have an Australian first sourcing policy. More than 96% of the product we buy comes from great Australian growers like Andrew Moon. Now, I haven't seen Andrew yet today, but what's brilliant about relationships with innovators like Andrew is that when we come together and work on new varieties and extending into new growing regions to eliminate imports completely, I'd like to take a moment to share with you the story of Andrew Moon.
My name is Andrew Moon, and my brother David and I run a business called Moonrocks. We're fifth generation farmers. We grow cotton and we grow onions. Moonrocks is based in St George. We're the centre of the universe. Actually 6 hours drive west of Brisbane.
The country at St George is really good for growing onions because of the, first of all, the climate here is great. We have nice mild to cool winters. We get drier air, which onions love. Also, we have nice light soils. We don't have the heavy clay or the problems associated with the heavy clays that other areas have.
Moonrocks employs 15 permanent staff, and we also, in our peak season, which is from October through to January, that ramps up to 70 people. We started supplying Coles back in 1998 when we were growing melons. We've since moved out of that line. We now grow solely onions for Coles, and we started supplying onions in 2004.
We're also now supplying red onions in a time slot when Coles was actually having to buy those onions from other places because they weren't available in Australia.
What Coles have done with stopping the import of onions has been not only a brave thing to do, but an incredibly good thing to do for our industry. It's allowed us to put a lot more locally healthy growing product on the market. It's what the consumer wants, and I think Coles read that quite well.
I don't think that customers realise that 96% of the produce in Coles is Australian grown. And customers shopping at Coles can rest assured that they're always getting the best available produce because it's coming from Australian farmers.
Our business, since we've been involved with Coles, has gone forward. It's been a really good business model. In the last 10 years, we've had a six-fold increase in our onion supply to Coles, and moving forward, I can only see that increasing.
So I know that if Andrew ever decides to give up growing onions, he's definitely got a career ahead of him on the big screen. So when we're talking about investment in the horticultural industry, I think we have to acknowledge the rapid technological advancements that are transforming the industry, and some exciting examples of that I'm sure will be on show at the trade show. Earlier this year, Coles were delighted to announce our partnership with Sundrop Farms, who we truly believe are leaders in sustainable agriculture. They're using solar power and desalination technology. Sundrop will be able to grow with incredible resource efficiency, providing year-round crop availability, consistent quality, and they'll also be able to lower production costs. Their state-of-the-art greenhouse will bring over 300 jobs to Port Augusta, and we're delighted to have supported that development through a supply agreement that will last for a decade. Of course, technological investment can occur at any scale, and Matt Hood, one of our key suppliers, joins us here today. Matt and his team at Rugby Farms in the Lockyer Valley have invested in state-of-the-art bean sortation lines that have improved quality and doubled the capacity and the throughput capacity of Matt's production. These sorts of investments are just critical because they allow Matt to harvest, to grade, to cool, and to pack his fresh beans within 3 hours. And that provides better shelf life and freshness for customers. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So at Coles, we're absolutely committed to Australian agriculture. We're proud to have worked arm in arm with the National Farmers Federation on the paddock to plate report on the cost of regulation across our $300 billion fresh food industry. We've put in place many long-term supply agreements, not just in horticulture, but across industries, including in dairy with Devondale Murray Goulburn and with Norco. We also recognise it's very important to be fair and to deal fairly with our suppliers. In August last year, we announced our supplier charter, which sets out the protocols we require our buyers to adopt. It's a formal commitment to deal fairly and transparently with our suppliers and to treat them with respect. We have a rigorous dispute settling mechanism. We've engaged Jeff Kennett as an independent arbiter who has the power to make rulings that are binding on Coles. We're also very pleased to have become a signatory to the Australian Food and Grocery Code of Conduct now that it's been ratified by Parliament, and we see this as a strong complement to our supplier charter. We're also putting in place mechanisms to make sure that we continue to invest in Australian agriculture. Earlier this year, down at Fresh Select, we launched the Coles Nurture Fund, an allocation of $50 million over 5 years to encourage suppliers to continue investing to develop market-leading products, processes and technologies. I'm delighted to say that we've been inundated with applications through that first round, and we look forward to continuing to support the contribution of great Australian enterprises. Of course, it's also our role to grow the market. John talked about export markets, and we welcome export markets because it helps great Australian growers to grow further. But a Deakin University study just a couple of weeks ago identified that 95% of Australian adults don't eat their required intake of fruit and vegetables. So imagine what opportunity is there if we just unlock and harness that untapped potential. To do that, we're continuing to invest in marketing campaigns that leverage trends towards greater food cooking and preparation at home. And through that, we can see continued growth in the great Australian horticultural sector. To leverage that growth, we look forward to continuing to invest in our partnerships with you, the most important players in this industry, Australian producers, and to invest strategically together to grow fresh food across the supply chain. So in closing, I'd just like to thank you for your time today, wish you all the very best for the remainder of the convention. And just in closing, I have a couple of kitchen tips from Andrew and the team at Moonrocks. Thank you.
Nice and they can bring a tear to your eye. As growers of onions, over the years we've learned that there's a few ways to reduce that, and one is by putting them in a fridge or freezer prior to cutting. The other one is definitely don't rub your eyes after cutting the onion. And thirdly, you can just eat them whole.